Hey everyone, how's it going? Five Finger Shuffle back here with another video. We just got the balance patch updates for this upcoming update released. So it'll be released next week. Instead of putting them up on the screen, they're very confusing. They did a really bad job of writing this out. Because they don't have, like, normally what they do is they write the before and then the after, and you can kind of compare it. Here, they just kind of wrote the after and didn't really explain much, so it's really difficult to tell kind of whether things are an improvement or not. So what I'm going to do, instead of putting the text up on the screen, is I'm going to go through the units one by one and try and explain what the updates are and whether I think it's good or not. So if you do want to read them yourself, I will put the link down in the description below. So just click on that and it'll bring you to it if you want to read along with me, or if you want to read it on your own afterward. So first up is Judge Kize. There are two buffs. So we've got Sever, End of Evil, and Wave of Light. The first skill is the same. Second skill currently attacks all enemies with a scythe. Damage dealt increases with more enemies. Now, this is going to have a 75% chance to dispel a buff as well. And the soul burn still applies here. It's going to consume 20 souls now instead of 10, but it's going to give you an extra turn. So this is actually huge for her. If you're going to use her on first turn, you will have to run her with a mage so that you can run Ancient Book and get this soul burn, but you could now use this to AoE strip and then proc into an extra turn if you burn into it, and then reset it within the same turn. So basically allowing you to avoid immunity. So immunity doesn't 100% counter her anymore. It is only a 75% chance to dispel, and it is only one buff, but that should be okay for the most part because she's usually going first. That might not work if you're facing a ML Cecilia, but other than that, it should be fine. Now, her second skill, Wave of Light, was a 70% chance maxed. Yeah, 70% chance maxed. That's going to be buffed up to 75%. Cooldown is also reduced by 1, so it'll now be a 6-turn, I guess 5-turn cooldown after it's been skilled up, and the damage has been increased as well. She's never really built for damage, but the increased chance of landing and the fact that you can strip and soul burn into an extra turn is going to be really nice. Even if you don't need the strip on first turn and you just go straight into skill 3, then you could also use the skill 2 later on to help reduce her cooldown. So I really like her buffs. I don't have a Judge Kize, but I do think that they're definitely going to make her better, and people that have her will use her more, and that's the intention here, so that's good. Next up is another ML light unit, Maid Chloe. So, Maid Chloe's VIP treatment entertains all allies with VIP treatment, granting revive and increased attack for 3 turns. Now, this is just an AoE revive. So and it includes both. So, basically it heals, restores health to a certain percentage for allies who died in a battle, and increased attack is applied. I'm assuming the increased attack is going to stay a 3-turn attack buff. So this will heal everybody that's already there, and it will also revive. So you don't have to have it on your units. You can't get it stripped. It's just an actual revive now. And that's going to be it for her. This is kind of it's kind of a small buff. It does help. Like, it means you can use it multiple times. If somebody dies, she can still use her skill. So it is good. Is it significantly better? Honestly, I'm not sure. It's still a really long cooldown with that 6-turn cooldown. She still does have this, which is a nice little heal, but I guess it does. I mean, it adds a secondary heal. It's not going to be a big heal because I think it's hard to tell by the wording of this, but it says restores health to a certain percentage for allies who died in battle. So, and it says includes resurrected and existing heroes. So, I mean, if they're already existing, that means they didn't die. I'm assuming it just like, say it brings them to 30%. It's proportional to max health of the target, but say it brings them to 30% of their max HP. I assume it only works if they're below 30% of their max HP, but I don't know. We'll have to test it. But yeah, I mean, it is nice, I guess, because it does add a secondary heal, and it means that even if somebody dies, she can still revive. So you will want to kill her early. If you leave her to the end, then she can just come back and revive the entire team. So that could be a bit of a disaster. Next up, we have Violet. I'm not sure about this one. Violet's buff is on duel accepted, so currently prepares for duel by recovering health, granting an extra turn to the caster. If the skill's on cooldown, increases evasion chance by 30%. After successfully evaded, gains 1 focus and counterattacks. Amount recovered is proportional to caster's max HP. Now that evasion chance is getting buffed from 30 to 35%. Also, when you use this skill, it will remove 2 debuffs on himself. So if he has an attack break, or say he got attacked by Dizzy and she landed the blind and the attack down, he can now cleanse that from himself, also putting this skill on cooldown. So it's kind of nice. If you're a Violet user, you're going to be happy with this. If you are having a hard time fighting Violets, you're probably not going to be happy with this, because he now cleanses himself and has an increased chance of you missing. You throw his artifact on there. Well, not his artifact on there. You throw Moonlight Dreamblade on there, and it's going to be very, very difficult to land hits on him. Again, best counter for him is still going to be Crow. Just let him hit Crow over and over until Crow can just nuke him. So if you have Crow, that's the easiest counter for Violet in Guild War. Next up, well, to summarize, I guess, it's a good buff for him. I don't know if he needed a buff. I think he was already good. It's not going to increase the amount of places that people use him. He's still going to be used in the same places, and he's just going to be better at that job. So he'll still be Guild War champion, and that's probably about it. Maybe a little bit of Arena. Alright, next, whoops, back to the MLs, but into the 4 stars here. BBK. So I think BBK is already amazing. I don't understand why they're buffing her. There's people using her at the highest levels of Arena with Oxlots. And basically they just made her even stronger at what she was already good at. So I don't really get it, but Sequential Cutter is her first skill. Quickly strikes the enemy with a sword, absorbing health proportional to damage dealt. Caster's combat readiness increases by 50% if the enemy is defeated. So that's already really strong. Basically, she generates more turns for herself, and she heals herself while she's at it. Now, the healing that she gives herself is doubled. Like, if you've ever fought one of these girls and she was relatively tanky and you're having a hard time killing her because she kept healing, then good luck now, because that healing is now twice as effective as it used to be. That's going to be really scary. Say in Guild War, if you don't kill her right away, and she starts getting more than one turn, because that turn generation with that extra 50% is going to be dangerous. Now, a lot of times that doesn't matter because she's already nuked you with her third skill. So Blade Art Dragon attacks all enemies, sacrificing 20% of her own health, granting the caster an extra turn when an enemy is defeated, and you can soul burn into this for only 10 souls, increasing damage dealt, and it's a big multiplier on that. Now, they've buffed the skill to reduce the cooldown by 1, so it's 5-turn cooldown, but also they've increased the damage on it by 20%. This already did huge damage. Like, I don't get it. It did big damage and enormous damage if you burned into it. I mean, maybe they're decreasing the multiplier on the soul burn, but I doubt it. But that's crazy. She's gonna be really strong now. If she wasn't already strong, she's gonna be even stronger now. I've been using her on my baby account, and just to cleave arena, I've been basically running a fast. I don't have Oxalots on the baby account, but I've been running a fast Tywin, and then just using Tywin's skill 2 into BBK, and then burning BBK's third skill and nuking the entire team. So that'll make that easier. And I might have to build her now on this account, because she's crazy now. Next up, Assassin Collie. My girl. Anyone that's watched my channel knows that I use her all the time in Arena. We haven't quite gotten into Legend, but we finished Champion 1 many times, using primarily her. She's fantastic. She's already OP. I wouldn't worry about this buff. It doesn't really change much. I think it changes it more for her at low levels, not at like high-end Arena or high-end Guild War. So it's to her third skill. Her third skill moves silently to attack the enemy, stunning for 1 turn, silences all enemies when the target is defeated. Now, all that happens is Assassin Collie now silences all enemies when she stuns her target with skill 3, instead of the silence debuff. Or, instead of when the enemy is defeated, sorry. So instead of putting up silence when the enemy dies to the rest of the team, it puts up silence automatically, as long as you stun the enemy. So, how does this change things? It really doesn't. Usually, if you're using Assassin Collie, she's going to kill anyway, and the stun will still apply. It could actually apply silence less, because she's probably more likely to kill than she is to stun, to be completely honest, because you're not building her with effectiveness. So this is probably going to apply the silence less often at high levels, because at high levels you have really good gear and she's always going to kill. Now, at lower levels, when she's not killing with her skill 3, then this is obviously better, because you were never applying the silence, and now you'll apply it quite often with the stun, because she does stun relatively well, and effectiveness isn't hugely important for her to land that stun for some reason, but it's kind of nice for that. The other place will be nice in high level is when you're facing like those crazy like C-Armin teams and you don't quite kill, you can still get the silence on everybody else, which is nice. But I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent about this buff, and I use her all the time. I honestly don't care about this. It's not a change in skills, it's not a change in damage. As far as I'm concerned, it's going to be the same. I'll let you guys know post-buff what I think. But I really don't think it changes anything. Next up is Corvus. So they buffed some random 4-stars. Let's take a look and see kind of what happened to them. So he actually technically got a buff on all 3 skills. So the first skill Acquires 10 fighting spirit. Second skill they added acquires 10 fighting spirit. Now, however, so let's read this skill. Strengthens the caster with fighting spirit for 3 turns, recovering HP, recovering HP, increasing defense, and granting an extra turn. Shield Slam increases damage dealt, stunning the enemy for 1 turn. What? I don't understand this. Strengthen the caster, grants extra turn. So when he does the extra turn, Shield Slam increases damage dealt, stunning the enemy for 1 turn. So basically it's buffing the other skills. And then Macerate decreases the enemy's combat readiness twice when attacked. And then when attacked, acquires 10 fighting spirit. That is one of the most confusing skills I've ever read. So now, instead of this having a cooldown, the cooldown's been removed. And there's going to be an increased health recover after using this skill. Their explanation was the cooldown for Corvus' skill, Fury's Advent, has been removed, and players may use the skill as long as they've obtained the required amount of fighting spirit. So you do need to build 50 fighting spirit before using this skill, and it looks like he'll get 10 every time he's attacked, and 10 every time he uses either his first or second skill. These improvements now allow Corvus to receive fighting spirit from both skills 1 and 2, which will allow him to use his third skill more frequently than before. Okay, so if he's getting attacked, then he can use this more often. So maybe you could build him as a tank against water units, and he could tank out the water units. He'll get attacked a lot, and then we'll be able to activate Fury's Advent if you want to build him. Next up is Cartusia. So I'm kind of surprised they buffed him. I think he probably needed it, but having such a strong ML 4-star, people don't generally build him. So the buff is to his third skill. Currently, it attacks all enemies with wild energy with a 50% chance to decrease attack for 2 turns before recovering half the caster's max health. Damage dealt increases proportional to the caster's max health, with additional damage increase when the caster has less than 50% health. So I really don't like the increased damage when mechanic. That's kind of probably why people don't use him. So now they've added a increased defense to this. The cooldown's been reduced, and the multiplier's been increased. So that's a huge buff on this skill. If you already have him built, then that's kind of nice. The 50% chance to decrease attack, the self-heal, and significant damage now, hopefully, quote-unquote, and reduced cooldown. And now defense buff as well. So another one that's kind of tanky. Going to be hard to kill if you do use him. Does this mean you should build him? Probably not. I would probably save him in case you get the ML version and use it for imprints. But it looks like he wouldn't be bad now. We're going to have to test his damage, see if his damage is any good. But I'm sure now, I mean, damage multiplier being increased by double is huge. So if he did any damage before, he'll do pretty good damage now. Alright, next up, I don't even know where he is. I thought he was a nature unit, but apparently not. What the hell? Alright, I'm apparently blind. Where the hell is regular Purchase? Oh, he is in here. I was like, I thought he was a nature unit or an earth unit. And then I somehow missed him. Alright, so Falling Strike. So they buffed his skill 1, which is interesting. Currently mows down enemies with a great sword with 35% chance to decrease speed for 2 turns. Now this is a 50% chance to decrease speed and a 50% chance to decrease combat readiness by 20%. A 50% chance to decrease speed on a skill 1 is really strong. Let's take a look at the rest of his skills. It's all enemies when counterattacking with 20% chance to counterattack when attacked. I didn't even know he had that. So that goes up to 30% chance to AoE counterattack. He doesn't really do much, so I doubt that does big damage. But it's free AoE damage when he gets attacked. Attacks all enemies with a powerful ground pound, stunning for 1 turn if they have less than 30% health. So that conditional stun, I don't really like. Like, if they're below 30%, you can probably just kill them. But this one here is kind of nice. I don't know where you're going to use this, but 50% chance to decrease speed on a skill 1, and you can 50% chance to reduce their combat readiness by 20%. That's like really strong skill 1. It's kind of like a Lidica type mechanic. You could really control bosses with that. We'll have to see though. I don't know, like, because these other 2 skills aren't really good for bosses. Maybe you could use it for A11. Because it would counterattack the spiders, and then you could help control the boss. Oh wait, but the boss can't get slowed, can he? I don't remember. I think the boss is immune to slow. But anyway, interesting buff. Maybe you could play around with that. Another nature 4-star or earth 4-star is Lots, and I actually really like his buff here. So his second skill is getting a buff. Recovers allies' health with healing magic and increases combat readiness by 80%. Amount recovered proportional to allies' max HP. Now, this now not only increases your teammates' combat readiness, but also is going to give him an extra 30% CR as well. So basically going to increase the speed of your entire team. I don't know if this is going to buff the boss in Abyss, the Lots. I think it's stage 71 or 72. Hopefully not, because that would make that stage significantly harder if that gets the extra 30%. But that's interesting. I mean, if you want to use him, he will generate his own turns much more often. And then Serenity uses strengthening magic to increase the combat readiness of allies by 10%, granting continuous healing for 3 turns. And then now it recovers a set percentage of the health of all allies. Man, the wording on these things is so strange. Thanks to the increasing CR provided by regen, Lots will be able to act more often than before, allowing you to better utilize his improved healing abilities. So I don't know if you're still going to get the continuous healing on this or not. They might remove the continuous healing in exchange for the set heal. It just says recovers set percentage. But I don't know if they're adding that or if they're going to have both. It sounds like the continuous heal will be no more, and it's just going to be like a regular heal. But, I mean, he needs a buff because all the other healers are kind of pulling away from him right now. Not many people are using him. He's good, but this buff makes him more mainstream, I think. Like, people won't be like, well, use him until you get Angelica. Now you can just use him, which is nice. Alright, we're going to skip Arbiter Vildred, and we're going to come back to him, because I'm going to try and keep this in a good light before we get back to him. Next up is Ravi. So Ravi, most people already know about this one. They released the notes on this a while ago, and it hasn't changed. So first skill Slaughter, attacks with double-edged axe, and absorbs some of the damage's health. The only thing that changed on this is currently you gain 10 Fighting Spirit, and they're going to change that to 30 Fighting Spirit, which is a huge change. Like, you're getting 3 times the Fighting Spirit from this. And this is going to affect Demon's Blood. Increases attack proportional to Fighting Spirit. When attacked, combat readiness increases by 8%, and 5 Fighting Spirit is gained. So every time you get attacked, you get Fighting Spirit, and every time you use your skill 1, you get a lot of Fighting Spirit. And the more Fighting Spirit you have, the higher your attack increases. Now, how has this changed? It's now damage dealt increases proportional to attacks and damage taken, and no longer to the Fighting Spirit. So, Fighting Spirit doesn't affect this anymore. It's only going to be how many times damage dealt increases proportional to attacks and damage taken. So the amount of times that you've attacked and the amount of damage you've taken, so the amount of times you've gotten hit. But now you'll be able to do this more often, is basically what it comes down to. So I don't think it's a huge buff. Like, this is huge, getting the extra Fighting Spirit. This might even be a nerf on the passive, or at least like a lateral move. It's not a huge thing, because it's going to be harder to increase her attack because it's not happening with Fighting Spirit anymore. But you're going to be able to use this a lot more often. So this consumes 80 Fighting Spirit, which, like, to get 80 Fighting Spirit before was quite difficult. If you just didn't attack her, then she, like, at 10 per skill, she had to take 8 turns before she could use this. Now, however, she only has to take this 3 times, and she's over. Or, really, like, 2 times, and get attacked a couple of times. So, you will be able to use this more often. The good news also is that when Fighting Spirit is consumed, so when you do this, it's not going to negatively impact your passive. So before, when you used your skill 3, it reset how much Fighting Spirit you had, so your skill 1 didn't do as much damage anymore. Now, the skill 1 is going to keep getting stronger, and it won't the amount of Fighting Spirit won't reset. Because you're never using the Fighting Spirit anymore, which is kind of nice. Oh wait, that's not true. Okay, sorry. I said that wrong. So this still does use the Fighting Spirit, but the passive won't reset because the passive doesn't use Fighting Spirit anymore. I said it backward. So your skill 1 will continue to get stronger turn after turn. It won't reset because the passive doesn't need Fighting Spirit to get stronger. Sorry about that. That's my bad. And the second last unit, before we go back to the Ravi, is Sigrid. As for what I think about the Ravi buff, I think that's actually kind of good. I know I said it's not a big buff, but just the fact that you can use the skill 3 more often, and it doesn't affect your decrease in your buffed damage is kind of nice. I think she was already really good for Guild War, but I think she's gonna be even better now. So if you ever built, or even if, like, I've had her in my inbox forever, maybe I'll build her now. Now Sigrid, she's getting buffs across the board. Attacks with the Scythe with 25% chance each of inflicting 2 bleeding effects for 2 turns. This is now going to be, instead of a 35% chance when maxed, it's going to be 50% chance, so you have a greater chance to inflict bleed. Batters the enemy with a Scythe with an 85% chance to make them unhealable and cause bleed for 2 turns. When the enemy's health is less than 50%, after attack, Sever is activated. So it procs into the skill 1. Now, instead of the effect chance from bleed being 85%, it's now going to be 100%, which is, I don't know if they noticed this. It says the chance of inflicting bleed increased from 85 to 100%, but it's 85% here, but it can be skilled up to 100%. So that doesn't buff anything. Maybe they're just changing it and then changing the skill ups to something else. I don't know. But that's the same thing. It's already 100% when you skill it up. The only thing I can think is that maybe they're changing the effect chance in the skill enhance and they're buffing it up to more damage. I don't know. But currently that's the same thing as what it already is. So they're buffing it to its current state. Interesting. And then this one is the big one. Currently inflicts lethal damage to the enemy, piercing their weak point, penetrating defense by 10% for each debuff inflicted on the enemy. The only thing they say on here is penetrates defense by 30%. Now, that could mean multiple things. That could mean that it's just going to be penetrates defense by 30% all the time. So whether there's debuffs or not. Or it could mean they're just changing that from a 10 to a 30, which would mean it would be 30% for each debuff. And if you have like 4 debuffs, then it's guaranteed to ignore all defense. But they don't explain it. They don't give us any details. I'm guessing it's just going to be 30%. And that's going to be it. I doubt it's going to be per debuff, but I don't know. I could be wrong. We're going to have to wait and see on that one as well. Their explanation is kind of messed up again. It says, previously Sigrid was seen as a damage dealer who could attack consecutively. However, she's not as prominent as she once was. I mean, the only time you attack consecutively is when the health is less than 50%. But like if the health is less than 50%, this is probably going to kill anyway. Except for bosses, which would be the Wyvern boss. So under 50%, this is kind of nice because it procs again. Does this make her more usable for Wyvern? Yes. Because she's going to have bleed effects on there, and then she's going to have an increased ignore defense, so she will be better for sure. I think she was already good. She's just hard to use now for Wyvern 11 because you need defense breaks. And with her not having a defense break, and most people having Luna, people are using Luna instead. I don't think she's better than Luna, because Luna has a defense break, and I'm not a big fan of bleed. But if you don't have Luna, then Sigrid is a great alternative. That penetrate defense by 30% all the time would be really strong, even just as it is. So we'll have to see how it goes, but I do think that's a nice buff. She needed it. She's one of the units that we were talking about on stream that definitely needed a buff. And now for how they've messed things up. So to this point, although some of it's been kind of confusing, I agree with all the buffs. I think all those units either needed buffs or like they were nice buffs that aren't going to break anything. However, I don't even know where to start. Like, what were they thinking with this? I'm sure most of you know already, like, what they're doing with this guy. But I'm hoping people realize how broken it is. So, skill 1. Rapidly attacks 2 enemies with a Sword Storm. decreasing their CR by 10%. The lower the enemy's health, the greater the damage. So now damage dealt will no longer be affected by health lost. Instead, damage dealt will be increased by 30%. So I don't mind that. 30% damage increase on skill 1, and they take away the caveat that's reducing his damage unless they have reduced health. I don't mind. I mean, it's an ML Nat 5. You know, buff his skill 1. He shouldn't have, if they have low HP, he'll do more damage skill. I agree with that. The passive, after receiving lethal damage, regens to 70%. Let's just skip this one for a second. We're going to come back to that. Attacks all enemies with a skill 3, 75% chance to decrease hit chance for 2 turn. When focus is full, consumes it all, increasing chance and damage dealt. When enemy is defeated with this skill, cooldown does not occur. Damage dealt increases proportional to the amount of health lost. So again, they're reducing the damage dealt, increases proportional to health lost, which is good. The base value of damage dealt will increase by 30%, and the chance to decrease hit chance is going to increase to 100%. So basically this skill now is attacks all enemies with 100% chance to decrease hit chance. When the enemy is defeated with this skill, cooldown does not occur. That's already really strong, because they also buffed the attack. Like, he does huge damage with this skill. He can solo your team. If he gets his skill 3 off on arena defense, you're dead, right? Now this is going to be a 30% attack buff, well, damage buff. And he's guaranteed, well, not guaranteed, but it's a 100% chance to decrease hit chance as well. So before, if he did it and you missed the crit chance, maybe you still have a chance to kill him again if he was the last unit or something like that. But let's come back to this passive. Currently regens to 70% health, gains full focus, and resets cooldown for Darkblade. So when you attack him currently, like when you're fighting him right now, at least what I do, is I'll kill him and then I'll kill him again before he takes a turn. Because usually he's not very fast. You can just bring like a speed team in and kill him twice, and then he's dead. But now it says after the passive skill is activated, which I didn't read before. But isn't the passive always activated? Oh, they're just saying after he dies. Never mind. Okay, so after he dies, his combat readiness gauge is going to increase by 100%. His attack will increase for 2 turns, and this cooldown's also reduced from 10 turn cooldown to 5 turn cooldown, but that doesn't matter because you're already going to be dead. So, long story short, he revives still with 70% health, but he revives with 100% attack bar. So normally when you killed this guy, wherever he was on the attack bar, he was revived there. Now he gets revived and he goes next automatically, and he's got an attack buff, and he's got 30% increased damage. So basically he's guaranteed to one-shot your entire team. There's nothing you can do. If he is on arena defense by himself with nobody else, one person defense, unless you bring like C-Armin, Crow, healer, whatever, just to tank it out, you can't beat it because he's going to one-shot your entire team. You're going to kill him and he's going to kill you. Now, there are units coming into the game that aren't on here that are going to be able to prevent revives, but that means you have to have them. They have to be very well built, and they have to be able to one-shot him within the course of battle, because otherwise you're dead. So you're going to see arena defenses out there with just him on the arena defense and no other units, and they're going to have better win rates than your 4-man C Armin, ML Ken, ML Ball, and Fat Cat defenses. And he's going to have a better win rate than that all by himself. So it's kind of stupid. It's completely game breaking. If you have him, congratulations, because you just automatically got to champion an arena with nobody else on your team and no gear. But that's the end of my rant. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully they either fix it or they patch it soon after or something, because that's outrageous. As for the rest of the buffs, they're nice, but I mean, you can have all the best buffs in the game. If you go and you break Arbiter Vildred and make him break the game, then I don't know what we can do about that. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I really hope I'm wrong, or they fix it. I don't understand how they can bring one of the strongest AoE attackers in and give him that kind of a buff where it's just guaranteed to like one-shot your entire team. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you all soon. Bye for now, guys.